Okay, what I would like to do now is look briefly at some of the successes and failures of the League of Nations during the 1920s. Um, how successful was the League in the 1920s? Well, I think the thing to remember is, again, there were some successes as well as many disputes, or many failures, I should say. Let's read this opening paragraph right here from page 68 of the text. The peace treaties of 1919-1920 did not resolve all the territorial disputes caused by the war. As we have seen, the Turks were so outraged by the peace settlement that they refused to accept it. They went on fighting mainly against the Greeks until the Allies were ready to agree to the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. So again, the Treaty of Lausanne superseded the previous Treaty of Sèvres, as we've looked at. The Italians were dissatisfied with their gains and managed to hold on Fiume after D'Annunzio's occupation in 1919-1920. Fiume was an area between Yugoslavia and Italy. There was a dispute over who should have control of that, and finally the Italians just basically take it over and occupy it militarily. The Poles were especially active, grabbing much of the area of Teschen from Czechoslovakia in early 1919. The League finally fixed this border between the two countries in 1920. More importantly, the Poles were at war with Russia until 1921, gaining much of the Ukraine and Belarus. So basically the League did nothing to prevent these actions from occurring. In the face of continuing violence and uncertainty, the League only gradually established a role for itself in dealing with international crises. Even when it did become involved, its record in resolving crises was mixed, and I think that's a key point right there. This is the success of the League, the Åland Island dispute. The Åland Islands were a series of islands between Sweden and Finland. They were occupied by Swedish-speaking people, however, both nations claimed them. The decision of the League was to hand them over to Finland, and Sweden accepted this decision. So again, this was a success of the League, but it was a satisfactory outcome only because the nations in the dispute were willing to accept the League's authority. And I think that's key. For the League to be effective, both nations had to basically say, okay, your authority is legitimate. Here's another success of the League, dealing with the economic collapse in Austria and Hungary in 1922-1923. Basically what the League did, they arranged loans for the two countries, sending commissioners to supervise how much money was spent, or how the money was spent. In effect, the League temporarily took over the economic management of the two countries. With this help, both Austria and Hungary were able to begin economic recovery. And so again, that's another success of the League. Corfu is a big failure of the League, as you've been studying, I hope. Basically, it deals with the dispute between Italy and Greece, although the original kind of issue dealt with establishing borders. And as you can read here, basically an Italian is shot. The Italians blame the Greeks, and basically what happens is because of Italian bullying, the League basically goes along with the Italian demands, and they basically force Greece to apologize and pay a certain sum of money to Italy and Mussolini. And so you can read that and get a little better take on that issue right there. Vilna, another kind of weakness of the League is described here. Vilna was an area between Lithuania and Poland. It was claimed by both. Basically what will happen is it will be occupied by Polish forces. The League does not want to become involved in it. The League eventually will try to negotiate a deal, but in 1923 it confirmed Poland's occupation of Vilna. And so again, it seemed to be the case that the more powerful you were, the more you could gain, and the more the League would be unwilling to stand up to you. The Greek-Bulgarian dispute, you can read that, and that's actually a success of the League, how it dealt with that conflict between the two sides regarding their boundaries again. But again, if you read here, but cynics suggested that the League was only willing to take firm action when no great powers were involved, and again, that's key. Upper Silesia was an area between Poland and Germany. There were a lot of Poles and a lot of Germans there, and so basically the League has to decide how to divide that territory. Basically what happens is plebiscites are held and the area is partitioned between the two countries. And you can read that there. All right, so that's a summary of those pages.